By the way, you see that background art? I wanted, something kind of a Noah's flood-like. I said, hey, this is a kind of an interesting piece. So I used it and found out it is AI generated art. It's called Storm Sea, all conceived by and made by an artificial intelligence. Pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. And as many of you know, AI, artificial intelligence, they have been producing art for at least a couple of years, and it's rather incredible. Now, my sister and I both noticed it's kind of also cold, and she pointed out that it's the eyes are kind of dead. And I said, now, are you talking about the artificial intelligence art or your friend Carolyn? And she said, well, both. But the point is, it doesn't have that warmth or that it seems to be lacking empathy. But technically, it's amazing. And each piece is always interesting. For instance, in this piece, look at this. What's that doing there? Is that like a ghost horse or a mist wolf or something? And then I think they're insulting human beings. Because look at this guy. I mean, he's just moments away from being swept out to sea, and he's standing there just with a backpack on, looking at things like, he's watching a pickleball tournament. And this incredible storm is bearing down on him. And, we're not that stupid, okay, Mr. AI. We're not that stupid. So can I at least give him a little umbrella there for protection? And this guy up here on this, whatever that is, okay, he's doing the same thing. It's like they don't realize, well, what's going on? This is all terrible. Out in the rain. I'm going to give him a little umbrella too. So, yeah. Oh, did you change it back to a pride umbrella? Oh, they've got it gone woke, haven't they? Yeah, the AI has gone woke. We live in spectacular times. And by the end of this video, you may believe that we're even in more spectacular times than you think right now. And we're in strange times. Pastor Rich, who you see often over in the comment section of unsealed.org, emailed me and he said, hey, are you watching this whistleblower talk about what's going on with the government and UFOs and non-human origin spaceships that they have? And he thinks it could be a big deal, and I think it could be. I don't know which way it's headed. That's going to be a big deal. Artificial intelligence is going to be a big deal. NASA announced there could be an outage for a sustained amount of time for the internet. And as someone pointed out, really, right before the 24 election cycle, the internet goes down and the only information we'll have is from the mainstream media. Well, what's to worry about there? They'll be fair. They'll be fair. Well, I was going to do a different video, and I was going to begin the videos with some comments from 3 different people who commented on last week's video. The third one from Recruiting Jesus. Recruiting for Jesus, right? He's not recruiting Jesus, recruiting for Jesus. I kept thinking about his comment, which I thought was good right off the bat. The more I thought about it, I said, you know what? That needs to be a standalone video. This is something we should all think about. It's, I think, rather important. So we'll get to that in just a second. First, since I'm talking about comments, I'm going to show you a couple of comments. By the way, Ashley, I am going to comment about your question about the 1/4 death inside the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. And how does that fit with what I see? I'm going to keep that till next week because I think it fits better there. But I want to apologize to a commenter, Ted C. I was unnecessarily harsh with him. Left a big old long comment, but still, I was a little irritated and I made him mad, and that's on me. So I hope you'll accept my apology, Ted. You called me names too, but only after I made you mad. So I'm sorry. I am sorry. I can do better than that. But you need to understand though, I get some rough comments too. For instance, this one from Kira. On last week's video, she posted this: please don't give your money to whatever scam charity this man is promoting. Oh, wait a minute. Are you referring to that time I asked the audience to sponsor me on a trip to Egypt so that I could see if the Sphinx's eyes were really closed, and I raised $25,000? And then I went to the airport and I got on the wrong plane and I ended up in Hawaii? And I was so distraught over the whole thing, I ended up staying there for 30 days at the Ritz-Carlton? Is that what you're referring to? Because that was an honest mistake. I mean, you get to my age, top end of your hearing, not as good as it used to be, and they say, final boarding call for Kauai. To my ears, that sounded a whole lot like Cairo. It did. Honest mistake. And I'll tell you something else, Kira. When I checked out of the Ritz-Carlton, the bill was $25,628. I had to pay the $628 out of my own pocket, so nobody got more burned on that deal than me. Well, I have never asked anybody for a single dollar since I've started doing videos. Nothing. Even if you wanted to give me money, which I don't want, you wouldn't know how to get it here because I've never given you my address. You know why? Because about half of you, probably Ted, would send anthrax to my house. Okay, I busted Ted again. I'm sorry. After just apologizing, accused of you being, I'm sorry about that. Sorry about that. Look, this is not a ministry. I don't even put my videos up on, what is it, Patreon, where they charge for you to see them and then I would get a cut. I don't do that. I think that's deplorable for Christians to do that. If you've got something to teach, teach. This is not a ministry. It's a classroom. I'm part of the class. Not asking for any money. But you know where that comment came from? It's because I asked for prayers for the couple in Honduras, Reach Honduras, and she thought, oh, he's setting up a scam. She thinks I'm going to come back next week and say, oh, listen, they could use some help financially, and then I'd get a cut. Let me tell you something. These have been the most important 2 years of my life because what he has taught us here has been spectacular. And the surest way to get those lessons to stop coming is for me to turn this into a revenue stream. I have no intention of doing that. I don't even know the names of the couple in Honduras. They did comment and say they really appreciated me mentioning that and the people praying for them. Other than that, I've never had contact outside of a comment section in my own videos. There is no scam. Of all the people all over YouTube who have their dirty little hands out constantly asking for money, and you attack me. So Ted, I was irritated from that when I got to yours. All right, let's get to recruiting for Jesus, because this is important. He first said, I think everyone has completely underestimated the importance of the Revelation 12 sign. I immediately liked his post, okay? So that's getting off on the right foot to start with. He says in this, and I'm not going to post the entire thing, but I'm going to hit some of the highlights. With every warning God gave before judgment, each warning came with a time frame attached to it. 7-day warning, 40-day warning, etc. Never in the Bible did God pass judgment before the allotted time for the warning had passed. We know that the last generation will be as it was in the days of Noah, because the Bible tells us that. Noah's 7-day warning could be 7 years for us. We know how much God loves to use the number. And then he goes on to say, maybe we're looking at a 7-year warning period from the 2017 Revelation 12 sign, which would put us in 2024. And he also points out, for what it's worth, that in 2024, in the Chinese zodiac, it will be the year of the dragon. So, that's interesting. That's interesting. The 7-year thing is just another tie-in that we've seen on this channel to the Noah's flood account. It's another strong possibility. There is no doubt that Jesus is giving the churches some time to get things straight. When he chastises 5 of them in those letters, he's got to give them time. The Revelation 12 sign put us on the clock. I think the question is, like recruiting for Jesus is mentioning, how long is that clock going to run? 7 years makes a lot of sense. Now, it's not something that we're going to make dogmatic and claim it to be true. We don't know. It makes a lot of sense. He loves sevens in the book of Revelation. And Jesus said this about the days of Noah. And by the way, that 7-day warning was when he sent them into the ark and shut the door. That was 7 days before the flood began. That in itself was a sign. It was a sign to everybody that what Noah had been working on for decades, the time had come. They were inside. The people in that area who had seen this going on now saw something they hadn't seen before. They're inside the ark. It's loaded up. The door is shut. That's an indication that whatever Noah thinks is about to happen is about to happen. It was one final 7-day warning. Does that then somehow convey to us the idea of a 7-year warning as we reach the 6th anniversary of the Revelation 12 sign? Here's what's interesting about that. When Jesus talks about Noah's flood, he says this in the Olivet Discourse: "For as the days of Noah, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. For as in those days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day when Noah entered the ark, and they were unaware, until the flood came and swept them all away. So will be the coming of the Son of Man." Isn't it interesting that he mentions that 7-day period when Noah entered the ark? Things changed. He could have left that out, and the point would still have been made, but he included that 7-day period as being important. Should we be looking at a 7-year period for the Revelation 12 sign? That put us on the clock. Just like Recruiting for Jesus said, we just really, all of us, including myself, don't appreciate just how important that sign was. Could it be a 7-year? Oh, yes, of course it could be a 7-year period. But what I don't like about it is it puts us in 2024. Now, my attitude about that will change January 1st, 2024, if we're still here. I'm looking for 2023. We saw something unusual last year in regards to a possible window, again with the flood story and account, that the day the flood started, Sheshwan 17, last year was November 11th, 11/11. The end date for the flood is Sheshwan 27. This year, that also falls on 11/11/2023. So we're looking at a window from November of last year to November of this year. We're looking. Again, no one's certain. But we're not going to turn down opportunities to see something interesting and give it careful consideration. I'd like to see 2023. May I suggest 2 ways using the 7-year warning period to lead to 2023 and not 2024. This would be method number 1. Now, we count years, especially with people's birthdays, after they've lived the entire year. You give birth to a baby, it's not 1 year old until it's lived 1 year and 1 day and it's back at its first year anniversary of its birth. But you could say that the first year always was, before it ended, the baby's first year. We don't have to count biblical prophecy the way we count in Western society people's age. What we could do is go back to September 23rd, 2017, and call that the beginning of its first year. That was the first year of the Revelation 12 sign. 2018 would be the second year, and so on until we got to 2023, which is the 7th year. The 7th year of the Revelation 12 sign begins on September 23rd, 2023. That will be the beginning of its 7th year. Why do we think it has to be a complete year for the 7-year warning to be applicable and appropriate? We are told elsewhere that the Jews considered any part of a day the entire day. Remember, that's how some people come to reckon how Jesus was 3 days and 3 nights in the tomb. I'm not sure they ever got that right. But I don't see why we have to say that has to be a complete 7-year period before he'll act. I believe if we're in the 7th year, it will still comprise a 7-year warning. In the 7th year of the Revelation 12 sign, war in heaven broke out. I can almost see that as a Bible verse. It's not in the Bible, of course, but it would seem appropriate to me, because if you wait for an entire year, the next day you will put whatever happens in the 8th year of the Revelation 12 sign. I don't think it has to be a complete year. The 7th year begins this year. And isn't it interesting that this year, September 23rd, 2023, the anniversary of the Revelation 12 sign, beginning at 7th year, the next day, according to the Hebrew calendar, is Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. It's going to fall right in the middle of the fall feast season. If it's next year, it's going to miss the fall feast season by about a month. Just saying. Am I pushing too hard, trying to make it come out to be 2023? Well, then consider method number 2. You might like this one better. Now, when we saw the Revelation 12 sign, we knew it was going to happen several years before it did. I think 2015 was when Scott Clark began making videos about it. I could be wrong on that, but I think that's in the right area. So a couple of years, we saw what was going to happen. We didn't have to see part of it happen and go, do you think it will really completely form? We already knew. We already knew. When you look back at it beginning to form, you already know it's going to form. It comes as a package event to us. If we had been living in any other time looking for some sign in the heaven, we'd be watching things and go, well, that looks promising. That looks promising. No. We can see the end from the beginning of this sign because of the time we live in and the special technology that we have. Therefore, why wouldn't the 7-year warning begin the moment the Revelation 12 sign began forming? The moment its pregnancy began, which would have been November of 2016. That's when it began to form. We could go back even a few more days and say when the comet entered her womb area. Why don't we start numbering the 7 years from that point? Because it's already a fait accompli that it's going to completely form. The moment the Revelation 12 sign began forming, because we knew what was coming, the clock started running. Because we already knew what was going to happen. It was going to fulfill the Revelation 12 sign in verses 1 and 2. It could easily be the starting point of the 7-year countdown. In that case, we are in the 7th year. The 7th year will end on September 23rd, 2023. 2 ways to get 2023 involved with the 7-year potential length of time that we have. But one thing is for sure, if the 7 years is going to play a role, it's going to be either this year or next year. After September 23, 2024, the 7-year period goes off the table pretty much, right? It's not going to be 7 years. It's going to be a different length of time. This year or next year. And I like this year a lot. But this is a great thing for all of us to consider. A 7-year period. And I thank Recruiting for Jesus for bringing that to our attention. Once again, the audience comes through and gives me something that I completely overlooked. Thank you for that. We are in a special time. The world is going to throw a very special time at us. That's becoming clear. I don't know if you saw the World Economic Forum. The World Economic Forum is asking AI to rewrite the Bible. Gee, I wonder what that would look like. About as warm as one of its pictures, I bet. All right? We live in an unbelievable time. We may be living in the final part of a 7-year warning. Can't say that for certain, but we should keep it in mind. God bless all of you.